The Lost Generation, 1883 to 1900. If you were born into this era, by the time you turned 17, you'd likely be celebrating your birthday in the trenches, covered in mud as bombs and missiles flew overhead. This was the grim reality of World War I, a period marked by immense horror and trauma. The war claimed the lives of 8.5 million people, with another 21 million returning home with life-altering injuries. As if the devastation of losing friends and family in the war wasn't enough, this generation was soon hit by the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, which killed over 50 million people worldwide. It was a tragic game of survival, where one disaster or another seemed destined to claim lives. These relentless hardships led to the early stages of the Great Depression, characterized by high unemployment, extreme poverty, and a pervasive sense of hopelessness. The term Lost Generation wasn't just a metaphor. They truly felt lost after enduring such unimaginable suffering. Yet, despite all of this, the generation still produced individuals who made significant contributions to the world. Among them were Albert Einstein, who developed the theory of relativity, and Alexander Fleming, who discovered penicillin, both born during this tumultuous time. The Greatest Generation, 1901 to 1927. Imagine watching a movie where the plot revolves around the aftermath of a war. Economic collapse, confusion, and survivors trying to piece together what's left of their world. This was the reality for the Greatest Generation. After World War I, the world plunged into the Great Depression, a crisis so severe that it makes today's challenges seem mild in comparison. The Depression began with the stock market crash in October 1929, wiping out millions of investors and sending the economy into a downward spiral. Unemployment soared to 25%, leaving 12.8 million people without jobs, resulting in widespread poverty and homelessness as people lost their savings and homes. Just as they were grappling with these hardships, World War II struck, as if the universe decided to spice things up with another devastating conflict. Young men once again exchanged their shoes for combat boots, and this war proved even deadlier than the last, claiming over 60 million lives. It remains the deadliest international conflict in history. After enduring such horrors, the survivors of this generation returned with a deepened appreciation for peace, democracy, and love. They began rebuilding the world, contributing to advancements that shaped the future. Among them were Alan Turing, who pioneered computer science and artificial intelligence, and Grace Hopper, who developed the first compiler for computer programming languages. Innovations that make it possible for you to watch videos on my channel today. The Silent Generation, 1928 to 1945. Ever wondered why your grandparents seem so strict and disciplined? It's likely because they belong to the Silent Generation, shaped profoundly by the aftermath of World War II and the Great Depression. Growing up during this time, they learned to live by the motto, "Walk the walk," enduring hardships without much complaint. Born into an era marked by severe economic downturns, they were responsible for rebuilding the world. Imagine being more concerned about rationing than recess in school. They had to mature quickly, taking on responsibilities, being frugal, and working hard just to get by. This is why many from this generation are known for their strong work ethic, strictness, and old-fashioned values. They earned the label Silent Generation not because they were mute, but because they were modest and kept their grievances to themselves. Baby Boomers, 1946 to 1964. The Baby Boomer generation emerged in the wake of World War II when soldiers came home, and love and new families were on the rise. The term Baby Boomers reflects the unprecedented surge in births during this time, almost as if the world took the biblical command to be fruitful and multiply a bit too literally. It was a time when, as war gave way to peace, procreation became the new focus. Hospitals were bustling, nurseries were packed, and the sound of crying babies seemed like a national anthem. Growing up during this period meant experiencing a time of significant change and optimism. The economy was thriving, much like the population, and homes were rapidly being built, embodying the ideal of the white picket fence. For baby boomers, childhood often included outdoor play until the streetlights came on, biking without helmets, and watching classic TV shows like Leave It to Beaver and I Love Lucy. What distinguished boomers was their sense of optimism and their belief in their power to make a difference. They were at the forefront of social change, challenging authority, protesting the Vietnam War, leading the women's liberation movement, and fighting for civil rights. They were like the superheroes of social progress, minus the capes. Generation X, 1965 to 1980. The name Generation X might sound like a superhero team, but unlike the X-Men, this generation doesn't have superpowers. unless you count their knack for surviving childhood without the internet and smartphones as one, which, let's be honest, is pretty impressive. One of their defining traits is their independence. Known as the latchkey kids, many came home to empty houses because their parents were working. This fostered a generation that is self-reliant and adaptable. They entered the workforce during an economic downturn, becoming known for their resourcefulness and resilience. They were also the first to embrace work-life balance, inventing things like telecommuting. They worked hard and played hard, often juggling multiple jobs before it was considered trendy. Gen X also gave us tech giants like Bill Gates, co-founder of Microsoft, Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple, and Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon. They're like the cool aunts and uncles of generations. Old enough to remember life before smartphones, but young enough to explain memes to their parents. They've navigated economic shifts, technological advancements, and the evolution of video game consoles with aplomb. Millennials 1981 to 1996, aka Generation Y, aka the digital natives. These are the people who were born during the rise of the internet, smartphones, and social media. If you were born during this time, then you can be comfortably called a master of adaptability, because you've legit lived through it all from dial-up internet flip phones and smartphones, and you're probably still waiting for those promised flying cars. They're like the Swiss Army knives of generations, versatile, handy, and always ready for the next big thing. Millennials are also highly educated because their parents often encourage them to enter college. Unfortunately, they entered the job market during or just after the Great Recession, which is about as fun as it sounds. This led to them being labeled as lazy or entitled. Millennials have also been accused of killing the housing market, but let's be real, the only thing they're killing is the idea that you need to own a home to be successful. They're more interested in collecting experiences than possessions, which explains why their Instagram feeds are full of travel photos and not pictures of lawns they've mowed. Technologically, millennials are the Goldilocks generation, not too old, not too young, but just right. They're the generation that can explain to their parents how to use Facebook while simultaneously asking their younger siblings to explain what Snapchat filters do. At the end of the day, millennials are a generation of adaptation that has navigated the shift from analog to digital and from traditional values to aggressive ideals. They're like chameleons blending into the ever-changing landscape with humor, resilience, and a smartphone in hand. Generation Z, 1997 to 2012. Imagine a generation that literally grew up with smartphones in their cribs and Wi-Fi in their playpens, known as Gen Z. This generation is the original digital gurus and has created and seen more memes than any other generation. If you are Gen Z, then you can probably communicate more effectively in emojis than in words. This generation is so tech-savvy to the core that if you handed them a rotary phone or flip phone, they would probably stare at it like it's an alien artifact, because they grew up in an age where touchscreens, voice assistants, and 24/7 internet connection were the norm. Gens have never known a world without Google, which is simply like having a tiny professor living in your pocket, except this one doesn't give pop quizzes or boring lectures. For Gen Z, research means scrolling through Instagram, and library is just a fancy word for that place. With free Wi-Fi, social media is a way of life to this generation because they live and breathe platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, and whatever. However, this isn't what this generation is all about. Gen Z are actually a very socially conscious and intelligent bunch because they really care about climate change, social justice, mental health, and animal safety. This generation of kids is tackling big issues with the same fervor they use to tackle Call of Duty opponents. They have an ability to multitask and look for the easiest ways possible to get the work done, which makes them very resourceful, smart, and productive. Generation Alpha 2013-2025 are the first to be born entirely in the 21st century, starting life with a clean slate, or rather a clean touchscreen. They're growing up in a world where AI, virtual reality, and smart technology are the norm. For these kids, technology isn't just a tool, it's an extension of themselves. While many of us had to learn how to use smartphones, Gen Alpha might already be coding before they're out of their cribs. Their toys are smart, their games are interactive, and their classrooms are virtual. It's almost as if their first words were "Hey Siri" rather than "Mama" or "Dada." They're so immersed in technology that they might be able to hack into your smart fridge before they learn to tie their shoes. With the challenges they face, Gen Alpha is likely to be even more eco-conscious and socially aware than their predecessors. They're set to revolutionize everything, becoming the AI-assisted, VR-enhanced, planet-saving superheroes we've been waiting for. Futuristic New Age Generation. Imagine a future where traffic jams involve flying cars stuck behind a flock of confused geese. Kids growing up in this world might ask, "Are we there yet?" while soaring over city skylines. Picture personalized jetpacks becoming the new bicycles, with commuters zipping between skyscrapers, dodging billboards, and navigating automated delivery drones. These future kids won't be glued to their phones thanks to neural interfaces. Forgetting to study for a test? No worries, just download the information straight into your brain. Schools might offer thought-loading sessions, letting students absorb entire subjects in minutes. Just be cautious. Daydreaming in class might accidentally broadcast your crush's name to the entire school. Language barriers would be a thing of the past, and if you're fortunate, someone might even develop a way to understand animal languages, revealing what your cat really thinks of you. This generation could witness humans establishing colonies on Mars. Kids born on Mars might view Earth's blue skies and oceans as exotic destinations, and long-distance relationships would take on a new dimension if your partner lives on another planet. Future generations will look back at this era with a mix of amusement and awe, much like we view the early days of computers in aviation. The future promises to be incredibly different and even more amazing. Who knows? Humanity might even venture to the stars. Thanks so much for watching. If you had fun or learned something new, give this video a like and hit that subscribe button for more awesome content. Don't forget to tap the notification bell to never miss new videos. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next. Stay curious, keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next video.